These days, when someone mentions the Kansas City Royals, the Hall of Fame probably isn't the first thing that comes to mind. But there was a time, a generation ago, when the Royals were consistently among baseball's best teams. And their best player was the franchise's only Hall of Famer, third baseman George Brett, a high-spirited performer who 3 times was the American League's batting champion. And in 1980, his MVP year, Brett was hitting over 400 in September before finishing at 390. Our guest tonight on Studio 42 from Cooperstown is first ballot Hall of Famer, George Brett.
George Brett was my favorite player to watch play the game throughout the years that we played.
Incredible! What a performance!
All you got to do to know how unique he was, flip over his baseball card. He was able to maintain a level of consistency that you don't see very often.
George Brett with a 4-for-4 night, and that is number 3,000.
He's got 300-plus home runs. He's got more than 3,000 hits. The stroke is one of the sweetest you've ever seen.
George hit the ball harder than anybody I've ever seen on a regular basis.
Forget it! Home run Brett! Oh.
He played the game with a fury and a passion. He would not be denied.
An old-style player. He's a tough guy.
He's out! Yes, sir! Brett is out! And he's steaming mad!
One of the best clutch hitters I've ever seen, without a doubt.
And Brett has taken the Royals and put them in front!
The Royals hadn't won anything, and then they win the division in 1976, 1977, 1978. They win the pennant in 1980. They finally get to the series in 1985. What's constant about all those years? It's George Brett.
He's one of those guys that come along every so often that, like I guess DiMaggio says, was born to play baseball.
And from the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, we're joined by Hall of Famer George Brett. As we look at the highlights of your career, we're reminded that the Royals were in the playoffs many times in the 70s and 80s. In the World Series twice, came close to the World Series 3 times in close LCS losses to the Yankees. That seems not like a generation ago. It seems like 100 years ago, because if somebody says now the Kansas City Royals are going to be in the World Series, the answer is yeah, in what fantasy, right?
Times have been tough since about 1988, especially the last 5 or 6, 7 years. It's been real tough over there. And, you know, people that are my kids' age in Kansas City, high school kids, have no clue how good we used to be. We have to remind them that we used to be a pretty storied franchise in Major League Baseball, but times have been tough there. And the one thing that our new general manager's done is he's built up that farm system, and we got a lot of top prospects. In the top 100, I think we got 5 or 6 of them, and some people even say we might have the best talent in the minor leagues in all of baseball. So hopefully it's on the rise, but it's been a tough decade or so in Kansas City.
Let's click off some of your career highlights because there are a lot of them. Let's begin with 1976. That's where you really burst on the scene. You win the batting title, and your team goes to the LCS against the Yankees. And in Game 5 at Yankee Stadium, the LCS is a best-of-5 then. They bring in the left-hander Grant Jackson to face you. You're at the plate at Yankee Stadium, down 3 runs, 2 men on. Game's on ABC. Everybody will recognize Howard Cosell's voice along with Keith Jackson. And let's give it a listen.
George Brett, the best hitter in the American League, has hit .362 with men on base throughout the year 1976. You couldn't have a better man up.
High drive, hit to right field.
Home run.
It's gone.
There it is.
The ball game is tied.
Certain situations, like he said, he doesn't like to look for pitches because it takes away from his greatest asset of just hitting the ball hard in particular spots. But there he is. I said it earlier, he made an error. What did I say? I'm no gospel, but I think I know athletes. It'll make him a better hitter when he comes back to the plate. Take a look at the little short porch over there. George Brett. You might not be a scientific hitter, George, but you can do it.
Who was that talking?
I think that was Reggie Jackson.
I think
yeah.
that was Reggie.
It was the year before he joined the Yankees, so it's 76, and he was a free agent. He'd finished up the year with the Orioles, I think, and ABC used him.
Well, I remember before that at bat, Charlie Lau, my hitting coach, who really, I think, molded me as a hitter, told me when they were bringing in Grant Jackson, he pulled me over and he said, hey, this guy has a tough time getting the ball away on lefties. I want you to move off the plate just a little bit more and just look for a ball in and pull it. Don't try to hit a home run and just pull it. And sure enough, he threw a fastball up and in. That's not a home run in Kansas City. Kansas City was 330 down the line. What's New York, 305 or 310? That made it to about 3 or 4 rows back right down the line. But yeah, that was probably my first real big hit on the national spotlight, and little did I know what was going to come in future years.
Looked like you hit it right from under your chin.
It was up and in.
That was definitely not a strike.
Now, if Charlie Lau wouldn't have told me that, I probably wouldn't have taken. I wouldn't have swung at that pitch. But he said, just anticipate a ball being in and just be quick. Don't try to hit a home run, just be quick. And sure enough, he threw one in. I was anticipating the ball being there. When he told me to look in or anticipate the ball being in, I had pull on my mind the whole time. So I was able to get the bat out in front, hit it 315 feet, and tie the game. And then Chambliss became a national hero when he hit the one off Mark Littell 2 innings later.
So Chambliss's homer wins the game and the pennant for the Yankees. This young Royals team has come this close. The next year you come back, you win 102 games. Might have been the best team in all of baseball that year.
Might have been. At one time, we won 16 games in a row in September, or August or September, we won 16 games in a row, lost 1, and then won 8 in a row.
So 24 of 25.
And the game we lost 1-0 to the Seattle Mariners, and Doc Meddick threw about a 9-hitter against us. But we couldn't get anybody in. It was just one of those days.
And then you go up 2-1 on the Yankees, again in a best-of-5 LCS, and they come back and beat you.
That was probably the toughest. That was a lot harder than losing in 1976. And I think, Bob, mainly we were happy to be there in 76. We had finally won our first taste. A lot of guys had never been in postseason before, didn't know what to expect. We competed, and we competed very good against a great Yankee team. And then the next year, winning 102 games, we've been there before. Now just getting to the dance isn't important. Now we got to go up and dance, and we blew an opportunity, and it's still, to this day, that haunts me more than losing in the World Series in '80, because we had them. And I think it would have been, who knows what would have happened in '78 if we would have won in '77, you know. But when you lose in '76, '77, then you got to play them again in '78. It was like, oh my God, why these guys? And they had to win the last game of the year. You know, and I remember watching
the Bucky Dent game.
The Bucky Dent game. I remember watching that game on TV, the playoff, and I'm pulling for the Red Sox because all of a sudden I don't want to play the Yankees again. I want some new meat. We're already in. We have to play that one game, and I'm tired of playing the Yankees. And then when Bucky Dent hit that home run and the Yankees won, I think everybody in our team said, not the damn Yankees again. And that's how we kind of went into that series.
And even though that was a hard-fought series, it only went 4, and they won 3 games to 1. One indication.
I don't remember much about that series at all.
Thurman Munson hit a long home run. I remember that, into like Monument Park. Out there.
Yeah, that's the year. I hit 3 home runs off Catfish that year in Yankee Stadium. I don't know what game it was. Maybe it was game 1 or 2. But they were all solo home runs. Whitey had me hitting leadoff that day.
And you had 3 home runs in the same game.
My first 3 at-bats.
That pitch is hit high in the air and deep to right. It is gone in the upper deck for Brett. Brett hits it well again. Rivers turns his back, goes back. It is gone. George Brett hits it to right field. Is it 3 in a row? Yes! Incredible!
What a performance!
Thurman came up, and Thurman was really beat up in '78. I mean, he had gone 60, 70 games without hitting a home run, and he hit a home run off Doug Bird. That's the farthest ball he hit that year. And that gave them the lead, and we ended up losing that game and then lost game 4.
Next, the rivalry between the Yankees and Royals escalates into a bench-clearing brawl. You're watching Studio 42, presented by Travelers. Back now with George Brett. We were talking about those Yankees-Royals LCSs and that whole rivalry in the 70s. Just one indication of how heated it could be. You and Greg Nettles really got into it.
Yeah, well, and we were great friends, but I tell you, when you put on those pinstripes and I'm wearing a royal blue, you don't have any friends on the other side. And that series was so hard fought. I mean, now we got a rivalry after losing to them in '76 and then losing to them in '77. Now we got a pretty good rivalry. They didn't like us. We didn't like them. And, the Hal McRae slide into Willie Randolph. I mean, I remember trying to break up double plays and trying to actually hurt people. I remember Lou Piniella sliding into third base one time. I'm 3 feet off the bag, and he slides in, and he tries to spike me and kick me. And sure enough, I led off the game with a triple off Ron Guidry into right center. And it was a pretty close play at third. I slide in, and I kind of come up and give Greg a forearm. And he falls back a little bit, and I don't know if we're going to see video.
Here it is.
But you can see him kick me. He steps back and kicks me in the chin as I'm laying on the ground, and I got up and threw a haymaker. And the next thing you know, we're on the ground, and, oh, it was great.
That ball's going to be over the head of Rivers, maybe. No, it's going to be over Rivers' head. McRae is going to score, and Brett's going for third. Already. But Brett went in hard, and both teams are out on the field. Brett went in hard at Nettles, and Nettles kicked him, and that's when the fight started. Billy Martin right in the middle trying to break it up. But the Royals lead 1-0.
Now here's where it is at third. The Nettles didn't do anything, and oh, there he did. Yep, he kicked him.
After Brett went into him, Nettles kicked him, and here it goes here. And right in the middle of his Guidry.
Yep.
I tell you, Nettles the wrong guy to fight with, I think.
Oh, man.
Oh, I love that.
Now, they say about baseball fights, seldom does anyone get hurt. True?
No one got hurt, but there was some punches thrown in that one.
You threw a hell of a punch at Nettles, but it missed, right?
I kind of grazed him.
Grazed him.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
if
the
that
amazing
had
thing is,
connected.
Bob, he would have been down. He would have went down. I was always told if you're going to fight, get the first punch in and make it a good one. Because if you don't get a good one in, the fight's not over. So I was trying to end it quick. I just missed a little bit. But you know what? It's amazing to see that now. I have never seen all that footage before, and that's incredible. Because I did come up, just as I said, and throw a forearm, because it was a close play. And then he steps back and kicks me. I'm not going to take that from anybody. And so I did what I thought I had to do, and no one got kicked out of the game. You do that now, you're kicked out of the game. You're suspended for a week or 2 weeks or whatever without pay. But that was the fifth and final game of the playoffs, and they couldn't kick us out of the game. And there was no hard feelings afterwards. I remember getting out of the locker room, and in Kansas City, there's an elevator that both teams take, and I was going out to get in the elevator, and Greg's coming out at his locker room, and the next thing you know, we're standing there waiting. I said, "How you feeling?" He said, "I feel pretty good." And I said, "Well, do me a favor." They were on their way to play the Dodgers in L.A. I said, "Hey, go win the World Series for the American League." Shook hands. I said, "Good luck." And we've been great friends ever since.
Coming up, George Brett's Pursuit of 400. Next on Studio 42, presented by Travelers. Fast forward to 1980. This is one of the great years that anybody has ever had. You're hitting over 400 in September. You wind up at 390. Your on-base percentage, I don't have it in front of me, had to be close to 500. Maybe it was more than 500 for the year.
Don't know.
But, I mean, this is one of the great years that anyone has ever had.
And it was just one of those years, Bob, where the game was in slow motion to me. It really was. The ball looked bigger than normal. I could pick up the spin on the ball better. Lefties didn't bother me. I felt very, very confident every time I was going to go to the plate that I was going to not get a hit. I never was that confident that I was going to get a hit, but I was very confident I was going to hit the ball hard. And the harder you hit it consistently, the higher your average will be. And it was just one of those years that Charlie Lau and Charlie was the hitting coach for the New York Yankees that year. And I remember we went into New York to play the Yankees, and Charlie says, "Hey, meet me at the stadium tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Now, he's a Yankee coach. And so I take a cab to Yankee Stadium. I get there at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, and I call up over to the Yankee clubhouse, and they said, "Charlie's out in center field." And sure enough, Charlie was out in center field and with his baseball underwear on, no shirt, just laying out there getting some sun. So
It's quite an image.
yeah, only guy in the stadium. So I put on my baseball underwear, grab a couple towels, I walk out there, and Charlie and I are just sitting around talking, having a good time. No one in the stadium, and we're laying out in center field. No shirts on, getting some sun. And he says, "Do you know why you're swinging the bat so good this year?" And I said, "Charlie, I have no clue." And he says, "I'm going to tell you why." He says, "When your front foot hit, it's hitting so soft that your head is so still and your hands are going back and everything is just in perfect unison." He said, "You will get in a slump before this year's over, and I want you just to remember that. Make sure that foot hits soft, because the harder that foot hits, the more your hands are going to come forward and the more your head's going to jar." He said, "Right now you could step on an egg and it wouldn't break. That's how perfect you are." He said, "I want to see you do it. I think you can do it." Little did I know that I was going to be over 400 with 2 weeks to go in the season. And now after talking about it every day for a month, solid month, because I went over it with 6 weeks to go in the season. And everybody started talking about 400. And I'm going, guys, we have 6 weeks to go. I mean, I might end up hitting 350. Who knows? For a month, I'm still over it. Now, after talking about it every day, I did the one thing I shouldn't have tried to do, was tried to go out and hit 400. I tried to get 2 hits every 5 at-bats. And if I was 1 for 5, then I tried to go 4 for 5, or 3 for 5 to get it back up to 400. And rather than just going out there, anticipate and hitting the ball hard, now I was trying to hit the ball hard. And as a result, it got down to like 385. The media left me alone. They went home and figured I wasn't going to hit 400. I hit 500 the last 4 or 5 games to get it back up to 390.
So the pressure did.
I think it got me. Pressure, it's a weird thing. When Roger Maris in '61 was trying to hit 61 home runs, his hair came out. And sure enough, I never had a hemorrhoid problem in my life. And sure enough, during the World Series, I go to, right before the first game of the World Series, we had practice. And this is after sweeping the Yankees. And we stayed in New York for 3 or 4 days. Then we had practice a couple days and to see who we were going to play in the World Series, either the Phillies or the Astros. And I came down with hemorrhoids. And I didn't know what it was at first. And so I said, "God, something's bothering me." And our trainer looked and he says, "Oh, you got some bad hemorrhoids." Do the preparation H stuff, and then we get to Philadelphia and we go to a proctologist. Well, I didn't know what a proctologist was. But I did see a couple good cartoons. He had a cartoon in his office, and it said proctologist office, and it was like a subway thing, where everybody was holding on to thing. They had no couches. They had bars, and everybody was standing there holding on to something. So I get there, and the doctor, the proctologist, says, "Well, how old are you?" I said, 27. He says,
big baseball fan, huh?
Yeah. He says, "How old are you?" 27. He says, "What's your diet?" I said, "Well, I'm single. I eat a lot of Mexican food, and stuff like that." And then he said, "Have you been under any pressure lately?" I go, "Have I been under any pressure?" And I told him what was going on. And he said, "You're a perfect candidate for hemorrhoids." So
Congratulations.
That's yeah, thank you.
You've been nominated and you've won.
So, I played in the 80 series with those, but it didn't affect my performance. We just lost that series.
I remember your comment to the press, "My problems are all behind me."
Yeah, after I had surgery.
Yeah.
I had to go, after the second game, I had a little minor surgery to try to correct it. And then the next year I go to spring training, and then I got them again, and then I had the complete hemorrhoidectomy. And now I've been perfect ever since. I'm a perfect a-hole.
You ever wonder, a guy is in medical school, and now
why he would choose to do that profession?
I could be a cardiologist, I could be an orthopedic surgeon, I could be a dermatologist, I could be whatever. No, you know what? I think proctology is for me.
I wouldn't choose that profession. That wouldn't be for me.
Back with George Brett, because this topic has no follow-up. We need to take a break. Other than 1980, 1985 was your greatest year. You hit over 330, you had 30 home runs, and in the LCS against the Blue Jays, you were just totally zoned in. You had the one game, I think Doyle Alexander was pitching for the Blue Jays, and you took him deep twice. There was one point in the series, I remember, where they walked you with first base occupied. Now, that happened to Barry Bonds, but that's a whole different set of circumstances in a different era. That was almost unheard of, to walk a guy with first base occupied, but they wanted no part of you.
Bobby Cox was the manager, and after what happened in Game 3, that was it. They wanted no part of me because I hit 2 home runs, missed a third by a foot, hit it off the top of the wall in right field in Kansas City, and then got a hit in the 9th inning or the bottom of the 8th, I believe. The game was tied. I led off the bottom of the 8th with a single and somehow scored on a Steve Balboni hit and ended up scoring the winning run. But that by far, Game 3 of the 1985 ALCS was the best game I ever played in my life.
That's your best game,
Best
all
game.
things considered.
Best game.
Well hit to left center. Back goes Mosby, along with Bell. Forget it. Home run, Brett. All right, so on to the World Series in '85, and there's a number of subplots here. It's an all-Missouri World Series,
Right.
I-70 World Series. The Cardinals have had a tremendous year. They're rightly favored in the series, and they go out and take a 3-1 lead. Danny Jackson, just as he had done in the LCS, keeps you alive by winning Game 5. You're down 3-1. You go back home to Kansas City, and in the 9th inning, you're trailing 1-0. Danny Cox has pitched very well.
A gem.
George Orta leads off as the pinch hitter. You get the call by Denkinger at first base. From your perspective, okay, you're in the dugout still. Did you know he was out?
We had a very good view. We were the first base dugout. I swear I thought he was safe. When he said safe, we didn't say, oh, God, I thought he was. No, we said, yeah, safe, great, let's go. We're still alive. But you know what? You see how the inning unfolds. The pop-up by first base, misjudged by Jack Clark a little bit.
Lets
the
it
pass
drop,
ball.
playable.
The pass, or the cross-up between Worrell and Porter.
Your old teammate, Darryl Porter.
Yeah, there's a little cross-up there where the runners move up, and then Dane Orge, ex-St. Louis guy, played for the Cardinals that year, I believe, or the year before.
They played for him in '82 when they won the World Series.
Yeah, and then now he's over with us, and he gets the big hit to send us to Game 7.
And that's a looper hitting the right field for a base hit. Concepcion scores. Here comes Sunburn. Here's the throw. He scores. We go to a 7.
Bob, I'll never forget going to bed that night. Get home about, it's an 8 o'clock game because of TV, and you have to satisfy everybody. Long game. It was a pretty short game, but you're so excited at the end. Sat in the locker room probably an hour, hour and a half, waiting for the traffic to leave. Went out, probably got something to eat with some friends. Got home about 3 o'clock in the morning. Game 7's the next day. Fell asleep about 3:30. I woke up, it was 3:33. Look at my watch, thinking it's time to go to the ballpark. I go back to sleep. I wake up, it's 3:40. I go back to sleep. I wake up, it's about 4 o'clock. I'm going, man, this is going to be a long night. I woke up about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I just took a lot of cat naps. And I still, to this day, do not know if I was so excited about what just happened. The adrenaline was still flowing. The dopamine rush is still there because of winning Game 6 in the fashion we won, or I didn't know if I was already thinking about Game 7. I don't know why I couldn't sleep. But I remember the Chiefs had a day game that day, and we had the night game, and so I had nothing to do all day, and I wanted to get my mind off the game because it's weird. The more you think about something, the more negative thoughts come into your brain. I go to the Chiefs game. I called John Makovic, who's the head coach. And I called his secretary, and I said, I'm bringing my brother John. We're coming to the game today. Can I sit in the suite? And they said, no problem. I get up there, and there's Whitey Herzog already sitting in the suite. So I sat and watched the Chiefs-Rams. I think they were playing the Rams, or I forget who they were playing. Went to the Chiefs game, and about 3 o'clock, Whitey says, come on, George, we got to go to work. And he and I walked over to the Royal Stadium together.
The stadium is right next
to each other. So we just walked across the parking lot into the stadium together, and we rode down in the elevator together. And he went to the right, I went to the left, shook hands, said, hey, have a good day. One of us is going to be a world champion tonight.
He had a sense that they were done. Which
I
is
wish
kind
he
of
would have
unusual.
told me.
Kind of unusual. He had Tudor going. Saberhagen pitched the shutout. Tudor got knocked around, unlike what he had done almost the entire season. He had Tudor going, and yet Herzog will tell you, and a lot of Cardinals will tell you, after things went the way they did in the 9th inning of Game 6, we felt real bad about our chances in Game 7.
When you lose a game in the 9th inning, it kills you. And I know there's, from past experiences as a player, you play your rear end off for 8 innings and then you give it up in the 9th. It takes you a couple days to get over that. Very seldom do you come back and win the next one. And that's what happened to them. I think that year, correct me if I'm wrong, they were 88-0 going into the eighth inning.
They never lost a game where they had a lead in the eighth or later.
Yeah, and we were able to beat them in the ninth for the only time that year, and obviously the most critical game of the year for them.
So after all the near misses in the LCSs and then in the World Series in '80, Andy Van Slyke comes up in the ninth inning. You're up 11-0, so you know you're going to win. He hits a fly ball. When that ball is in the air, out toward right field, what are your emotions?
Well, I told Saberhagen when there was 2 outs in the ninth after the second guy made the out, and then Andy Van Slyke was coming up to bat. I said, hey, look, when this guy makes the last out, and he will, kind of like the Hoosiers movie, when you will make the second one. And then he goes, then Gene Hackman has his greatest line ever. He says, make it a good one, Schrapp. You remember the guy saying a prayer for him?
Right.
Make it a good one, Schrapp. I love that. So I go up to Brett and I said, hey, look, this is your second year pitching in the big leagues. And I've been around a long time. I've had a lot of heartbreaks. I said, when this guy makes the last out, and he will, don't go running anywhere. I want to be the first one on the mound to congratulate you. And sure enough, he hits a fly ball to right field. And then we're sitting there waiting for it to do it, for Motley to catch it. And then we embrace, and then Balboni comes in. He's the next one in, and he puts his arms. You know, Steve was just a huge guy. He puts his arms, and it goes around both of us. I mean, it was unbelievable. And then just a celebration afterwards. It was more than I ever thought. And Bob, what I didn't realize, I never realized, I'd never been in a town where they won a world championship. In Kansas City, the Chiefs won before I got there. In L.A., I never went to the Dodgers parade or anything like that. But I never knew the impact of winning a world championship, what it has on the city. Never. That's my first experience. It gives the city so much pride. You know, it is something special. And that's what playing sports is all about. I mean, it's the pride in your teammates and the pride in the town that you represent, and you want to do it very, very well. But it was the greatest 3-day celebration I've ever experienced in my life.
Up next, another Hall of Famer joins George Brett to break down the infamous Pine Tar game. You're watching Studio 42, presented by Travelers. One of the beauties of Hall of Fame weekend is that Hall of Famers are everywhere you look. And here at the Otesaga Hotel, it was an easy walk down the hall for Goose Gossage to join us. And you're wearing your Hall of Fame hat. Oh, this is this year's hat, 2010. Yes. But you were inducted in '08. Oh, look at this. How about that?
Whoa. I saw him last night. I was wearing this hat.
You know what? You don't look bad in a Yankee style hat.
First time I've ever had a Yankee hat on, too. And I guarantee he would never wear a Royal hat, ever. Have you ever had a Royal hat on?
The whole world is upside down.
No,
I've not.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you were inducted in '08. If it wasn't for this guy, you might have been in a few years earlier.
Well, I got him in the Hall of Fame. It was, I had a lot to do with that.
Let's take a look at one of those moments. We were talking about George's 1980 season, including the most detailed description of a bout with hemorrhoids that any of us has ever had the privilege to hear. So he hits .390 that year. He slugs over .660. His on-base percentage is over .450. And he comes up against you in Game 3 of the LCS. And the Royals are on the verge of sweeping the Yankees after losing the 3 series to them in the 70s. 1980, it's a different deal. But you're not going to back off from anybody. And here's what happens at Yankee Stadium.
George Brett at the plate. Set by Gossage. A high drive hit deep to right field. It is gone. 3-run home run by George Brett into the third tier of Yankee Stadium. And Brett has taken the Royals and put them in front. Here in the 7th inning. The Royals now lead it 4-2. And a stunned crowd here at Yankee Stadium in New York as Brett being patted on the back by Gordy McKenzie and the welcoming party at home plate as the Royals lead by a pair of runs.
I've never heard a ball meeting a bat like that. And it was so loud, and there were so many people. It was packed, Yankee Stadium, and I flinched when George made contact with that ball. I just went, oh my God. And it was the loudest, it was just a crack that I have never heard ever before or since.
Well, when you get a swing as grooved as his was in '80, and you're throwing close to triple digits, it's a simple matter of physics.
Well, he was the greatest hitter on the planet for 15 years. And, you know, that was one of my greatest thrills was being able to face him.
That was as good a rivalry.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays you hear, Goose, about the Red Sox-Yankee rivalry. Back then, was the Yankee-Red Sox rivalry that big when you played for the Yankees?
Oh yeah, but it wasn't any bigger, and it couldn't get any bigger than the Royals and Yankees, and because we hated them and they hated us. I mean, there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Another incident occurs in 1983, and you know where I'm going with this one. Folks, don't ask me to explain why. I had to have a computer on my lap for the previous thing, but for this thing, we've got a small plasma screen. Just go with us on this. This would be your basic pine tar game from 1983, and wouldn't you know it, Goose is again on the mound. It's the 9th inning. The game hangs in the balance. George comes up, and it looks like he gets you again.
The pitch, deep to right field. Holy cow, I don't believe it. Home run for George Brett. I don't believe it. That lightning could strike twice. And Billy Martin now is coming out. Hey, they might have a point here. Thurman Munson was called out after getting a base hit because there is pine tar above the trademark. And Billy Martin might have a valid point here. That's the only way the Yankees can get out of this scrape. And they are about to make a decision, and this could be a momentous decision.
Well, first of all, I don't see anything wrong with having pine tar as far as you want on that bat.
Bill White, you're right, except for the fact that you remember the...
I can't believe that.
Wait a minute, Bill.
I can't believe that.
They did that to Thurman Munson out in Minnesota.
Brett is upset, and I can't believe that, Phil.
Well, now, wait a minute, Bill. They did it on Thurman Munson in Minnesota. It was not as dramatic a moment as this. Thurman hit a line drive into left field, and a base hit drove in a run.
I said the same thing then. I couldn't believe that they could call Thurman out, and I can't believe they'd call Brett out here.
Well, you're out there on the mound. Let's get your perspective first. Everybody has seen George go berserk. What are you thinking?
Well, you know, I'll set the stage first, Bob. In Kansas City, a week before this, we were playing them in Kansas City, and George was up with the game on the line. I think there was a runner on second base. We had a 1-run lead, and the next thing I know, George is coming up. The next thing I know, Nettles is standing next to the mound, and he said, "Hey," he said, "if he gets a hit here, we're getting his bat because he's using an illegal bat." And I looked at him. I went, that was the first time I'd heard anything about it, and everybody thought it was Billy Martin, but it was Greg Nettles actually that called it.
Your old nemesis.
Yeah.
Did you see him in the bottom of the screen, by the way, when they made the call and they called you out?
He was happy. We were all happy. But so I'm thinking about this, and he hit a ground ball to second base, ended the ball game. We ended up winning that game. So they come in to follow us into New York. And the situation came up. I probably should have been in a few hitters before because Billy was always late bringing me into a ball game where I should have, you know, never left me any room or very little margin for error.
Billy, not your favorite guy, but that's a different story for a different day.
Right, exactly. And next thing I know, UL Washington, I'm in the ball game. UL beats out a chopper over my head, if I remember correctly. And now I got to face Brett. And I'm thinking, there is no way that I'm pitching to Brett. You know, I'll put him on or whatever. The first pitch to him, and we're winning 2-1, I think, is the score at that time. And 9th inning, and I throw a fastball. I'm thinking, keep it away from him. Don't give him anything to hit. And so I'm throwing way outside, and he reaches out and hits this ball, Bob, down the left field line. It's slicing. It's home run. It's gone. I'm thinking, God, how do you hit that? You know, and it just sliced. I dodged the bullet, and it just missed being a home run, and just missed the foul pole. And I'm thinking, okay, this next one, I'm going to bury it right in his neck. Really, I'm going to bury this thing right in his neck. And I threw that pitch. It was coming up and in, and he hit this ball, as you just saw, and just a rocket, a laser into the right field bleachers, and I couldn't believe it. Well, then it unfolded, and that's what happened. But And you saw what happened, and that's the maddest human being I've ever seen in my life come out of that dugout. But we were happy as hell, you know. Nettles is pounding his glove like, yes.
Now, when you see this footage, and you've seen it before, what do you think? I mean, obviously you're an intense competitor, but you're a nice guy. You're a madman here.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I swear, I just remember going in the locker room after that whole thing was over, and I couldn't breathe. They gave me the brown paper sack. I mean, I couldn't breathe. I was just so gone. I'm mentally exhausted, physically
You're
exhausted.
hyperventilating.
Yeah, I mean, I was having a tough time breathing. That's the maddest I've ever been in my life. And
he cheated. Well, I don't know what else to call it. He cheated, man. But it ended up about a month later being overruled by the league.
About a week later, Lee McPhail
about a week
later.
Yeah, a week later. Yeah.
Yeah, right. A week later.
Replay the last half inning.
And I was kicked out of the game for some stupid reason. Why would they throw me out of the game?
I can't.
So
see
I
anything that would
I
justify
went to
that.
a bar. We had to fly in on an off day. You guys had a mutual off day, and I went to a bar right by the airport by LaGuardia and watched the game on TV with our TWA sales rep Larry Amici, who's Don Amici's son. And we watched the game, and then the guys had to get off the plane, go to the stadium, play 4 outs, and then jump back on, and then we flew to Baltimore to start a road trip. But we had to fly to New York on an off day.
And that may do it. Frank White over to John Watson, and the Pine Tar game is over. The Yankees are 3 up, 3 down here in the bottom half of the 9th inning.
You're watching Studio 42, presented by Travelers. Who threw the hardest of anyone you faced?
Well, Nolan Ryan probably. Frank Tanana. When Frank came up, Frank got it up there in the high 90s, 100,
Oh,
you know?
yeah. He was amazing.
Yeah. I think those two guys.
Yeah.
I faced Randy Johnson at the end of my career. He was playing for Seattle. And Hal McRae was our manager, and Hal, after watching me face Randy Johnson in 2 or 3 games, he finally said, "Don't worry, you'll never face him again." Because it was pretty ugly. And then he threw me up one time as a pinch hitter in the 9th inning with 2 outs.
Left-handed hitter.
Yeah.
Age what, 40 then?
I was 40.
Reflexes starting to go a little bit.
And he's
left-handed hitter against Randy Johnson.
conveniently wild.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't pull a John Kruk, though, right? You hung in there.
I flew out to right field to end the game on him. Jay Buhner went back and caught it.
Where did you fit in there? I mean, you could get it up there 97, 98.
The home run in the 80 was 98 miles an hour, they said.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, we didn't have a lot of guns, Bob. I think in Baltimore always had a gun. And that was really the only place that they really did it consistently. And they got me on that gun. They said Ryan and I at that time, I don't know after this, but I came in there one night and just the ball was coming out of my hand. I was just, it's one of the hardest times. There's probably maybe a little more than a handful of times that I threw over 100. I know I was throwing over 100 because I was let the ball go. And, you know, those great pinch hitters that they had over there with
Crowley,
Baltimore,
yeah,
Crowley
Terry
and
Crowley,
Lowenstein.
yeah.
Yeah, Crowley and those guys were dead red. I mean, they were dead fastball hitters, and I was letting the ball go, and I think Crowley was the first guy up, and I struck out 6 or 8 of them out of 3 innings, and they got me 103 on that gun. And Nolan, they said, and I were the guys that really set the record on that gun.
Up there.
Yeah.
That is up there.
And I was letting go of the ball. And Crowley was the first guy up, and he took 3 and just went back and sat down. And on his way back, I think Lowenstein was on deck, and he said, "Forget it, it's over." He just told Lowenstein, "Forget it, man, it's over."
It was just one of those days that it just came out.
It was, you know, all my mechanics were perfect, and you know, it was just a. And like I said, it was over probably a little more than a handful of times that I did that. I did it against the Dodgers one night, and I did it against Seattle and a few others. In Cincinnati one night when I was with the Pirates, I had one of those nights, and just, you know, Joe Morgan. I was just, nobody really knew who I was. It was the first time I was in the National League, and Joe Morgan, I punched him out, and he's a tough guy to strike out. And I struck out like 8 out of 9 guys that night too. And the next day I came out, and Morgan goes, do you know who I am? And I just looked at him, and I hated hitters. And I just looked at him, and I just let it go. I didn't say a word, you know. But in my mind, I was thinking, I know who the hell you are. I don't really give a damn, you know. So, you know, but that was the way it was, you know. There was no fraternization. I hated hitters. I hated this guy. I couldn't stand this guy. I couldn't stand any of them.
Well, we were on all-star teams together and never said a word.
No.
Never said a word to them.
No.
They would put all the pitchers on one wall. They'd put all the well, we'd call them kickers. They put all the kickers and then all the athletes, you know. They put all the pitchers on one side of the locker room. They put all the position players.
The pitchers the way football players view place kickers.
Yeah. I never said a word to any of these guys.
No.
I didn't want to be friends with them.
We steered clear. You know, he'd be over there, I'd go the other way. And, you know, I didn't want to say anything
I didn't want to
nice.
be friends with you guys.
No. Oh, absolutely not. No. Oh, we hated each other, I'm telling you. We hated each other, man. We went into Kansas City, I'm telling you, it was a war.
You're watching Studio 42, presented by Travelers. George Brett has been with us for the entire hour, and Goose Gossage has joined us for the last couple of segments. Did you ever fear for what you might do as hard as you threw? I remember you hit Ron Say in a World Series game once. Did you ever fear what might happen?
You know, I would look, I was the meanest on the mound. You know, I scared myself. And I would look at hitters and I would think, this guy, you know, I would hate to be him. I would not want to be up there right now. And that was just that hatred that I had for hitters. You know, hey, it was either, it's like the law of the you know, jungle. It's either eat or get eaten, and I was not going to get eaten. You know, I got eaten a few times, but and this guy, you know, he hit those shots that were heard around the world off of me. But you know, I was off the charts. No one even came to the mound to talk to me. I tell him to get the hell out of there and go play third. I told Nettles a couple times. We got into it in Kansas City. He comes up to me and he says something like, "Hey, hold the runner." I said, "Hey, you play third base. I'll take care of the mound, okay?" And we got into a John thing. We went into the dugout after the inning and kind of had to be separated a little bit. But that was the way I was on the mound. It was, you know, either eat or get eaten.
You ever know fear at the plate?
I never thought about what would happen if I got hit. I always felt comfortable hitting. Obviously, there were some people that didn't really give you that. Randy Johnson at age 40, I wasn't really that comfortable, but I never was afraid of getting hit by the ball, no.
What's the most memorable at-bat in your long career?
The
one single at-bat.
The home run off the gentleman to my left in 1980.
That one?
That's the one, yeah.
Because of the impact of the game, or just because it was the perfect swing against a Hall of Fame caliber pitcher, or what was it?
It was kind of a combination of both. We lost to the Yankees in 76, 77, 78. We didn't make the playoffs in 79. 1980 comes around. We win the first two games in Kansas City. And then I'm facing one of the best relievers in the game with the game on the line in the seventh inning and hit a 3-run home run off him to give us the lead. And it catapulted us into our first World Series in 1980, even though we lost to the Phillies. I think, and I look back over 20 years of playing, if I could take one swing and duplicate it, it would be that swing right there.
You know, Bob, I went home that offseason after the 80 playoffs, and they were in the World Series, of course, and I was watching the game on TV with a bunch of my buddies, and I said, hey, that SOB, I said, he got those hemorrhoids from hitting that home run off of me.
And so we end
it comes up
where
again.
We began. You're not feeling any symptoms, are you?
No, I'm fine.
Oh, that's a relief.
Thanks for asking.
That's a relief.
Thanks for asking.
Goose Gossage, George Brett. That'll do it for this edition of Studio 42 from Cooperstown.
This has been a presentation of MLB Network Studio 42 with Bob Costas, presented by Travelers.